The cockpit of the exploration vessel Wanderer pulsed crimson as warning lights strobed across Commander Sarah Chen's face, alarms shrieking in every corner of the cramped space. Her knuckles whitened on the control stick as she fought to steady the vessel, the ship lurching and jolting like a wild beast, trying to throw her off. "Stay with me, girl. Don't fall apart now," she growled under her breath, eyes darting across the panel where half the screens screamed critical alerts. The fusion drive had given out 3 hours earlier, stranding her in the endless void between star systems, emergency thrusters her only lifeline. Sarah had been alone in the black for 6 months, charting routes for the colonial authority that few dared to risk. She loved the untamed silence of space, the freedom it gave. But that very freedom might now be her grave. The ship's computer broke in with its emotionless voice. "Commander Chen, hull integrity at 60% and dropping. Breaches detected in sections 4 through 7. Recommend immediate emergency landing." "And land where exactly?" Sarah barked, brushing sweat from her brow. The viewport showed nothing but scattered stars and the faint shimmer of a nebula. "Scanning for viable planets," the computer intoned. Seconds ticked before it returned. One world located within emergency thruster range, Kitha Prime, bearing 27 Mark IV. Sarah's stomach turned to ice. That name was etched into every pilot's memory. "Computer, confirm. Did you say Kitha Prime?" "Confirmed. Kitha Prime is the sole world within current flight capability." "Display system warnings," she ordered. The main screen came alive, charting a star field. Kitha Prime gleamed as a single dot, encircled by symbols flared across the display, glowing red as warning text scrolled along the bottom. "Forbidden quarantine zone. Entry banned by decree of the Galactic Council. 2847. Penalty for violation. Immediate execution." Sarah's eyes lingered on the display. She'd heard whispers of Kitha Prime in smoky bars and outpost cantinas where pilots traded stories. It was the birthplace of the Cathani, a warlike species so dangerous the entire Galactic Council had united to lock their world away over 10 millennia ago. Tales claimed the Cathani had nearly burned 3 star systems before they were contained. Another alarm joined the clamor as the Wanderer jolted violently. The computer's voice, steady and detached, cut through the noise. "Hull integrity at 40%. Emergency diversion to Kitha Prime recommended." Sarah pressed her eyes shut, forcing calm. She could gamble on another system, but her ship was disintegrating beneath her hands. An emergency beacon wouldn't reach the nearest human station for weeks, and she would be long dead before then. "Plot course to Kitha Prime," she whispered. Warning. Kitha Prime is under absolute quarantine, landing strictly forbidden. "Forget the Council. I'll die without landfall." Her fingers raced over the console, igniting the thrusters. "Plot the course." Course established. Time to arrival, 4 hours, 17 minutes. The hours crawled by. Sarah patched what damage she could, sealing ruptures, avoiding the thought of what might await her on that cursed planet. Surely the legends were overblown, she reasoned. After 10,000 years, the Cathani could all be dust. Yet as Kitha Prime swelled before her, she finally saw it clearly. Smaller than Earth, with twin moons and a halo of debris that might once have been satellites. Its scarred surface showed only browns and grays, barren of seas or fertile lands. Commencing. "Atmospheric entry," the computer intoned as the hull shuddered. Sarah wrestled the stick, hunting a landing site. The planet rushed upward, vast and broken. Much of the terrain shone like glass reflecting the orange star. "What in God's name happened here?" Sarah whispered. She guided the Wanderer down, onto a stretch of flat terrain near what looked like the remnants of an ancient city. The impact was brutal. Landing gear snapped and the ship scraped across the stone until it slammed against a low ridge. Then, silence. Sarah sat rigid, her heart hammering as the alarms finally died. Only the faint hiss of the life support systems remained, alive, but marooned on the galaxy's most forbidden world. After a swift check of the controls, she sealed her suit and stepped out. The atmosphere was thin yet breathable, carrying a metallic tang like blood on a coin. The landscape spread out, bleak and alien. Dark sand coated the ground, while jagged hills looked less carved by nature than scarred by weapons fire. In the distance, the skeleton of a city sprawled endlessly. Towers were melted into glassy stumps, metal twisted into grotesque shapes, though fragments still loomed against the orange sky like shattered teeth. Only the wind moved, whistling through. Desolation. Sarah advanced carefully, boots crunching shards beneath her. She'd seen battlefields before, but never devastation of this scale. Whatever befell this place had burned it to its bones. Even the stone itself seemed vitrified by impossible heat. "Hello?" she called, the word trembling as it echoed and dissolved into silence. Foolish. Nothing could have survived 10 millennia. She turned back toward the wreck when something caught her eye. Deep within the ruins, half hidden under collapsed structures, glimmering metal shone with an oily, iridescent sheen. Not rusted wreckage, something alive with power. Moving cautiously, Sarah picked her way through debris toward the glow. The shape resolved into a vast, curved installation, buried yet intact. Faint lights pulsed across its surface, and beneath the silence came a low vibration, steady as a heartbeat. "What are you?" she whispered, crouching beside it. The instant, her gloved hand brushed the surface. Everything shifted. The hum rose, lights cascaded in rhythm, and from below came the grinding thunder of ancient machinery awakening. Sarah stumbled back, eyes wide. Too late. The world itself was stirring. All around her, the shattered ruins began glowing with the same shifting rainbow light. More hidden structures stirred, rising slowly from beneath the sand. The air vibrated with electronic tones, joined by the distant thunder of machinery reawakening. "Computer error," Sarah muttered, forcing belief into her voice. Some ancient auto-response to touch. But even as the words left her lips, she knew they were lies. This wasn't malfunction. It was defense, and she had triggered it. She sprinted toward her ship, but the ground heaved beneath her boots. Buildings she had taken for rubble began reshaping, melted glass hardening, twisted girders straightening, broken shells flowing upward like rivers reversed. In the heart of the transformation, something vast clawed its way out of the earth, a structure alien and fluid, forged of crystal and metal yet almost organic. Sunlight caught its facets, scattering. Fire across the ruins. Its awakening sent signals through the city. Across the horizon, more towers erupted from burial, humming with renewed power. Within moments, desolation had become a forest of alien architecture alive once more. Reaching the Wanderer, Sarah climbed the battered hull and tumbled into the airlock. She raced for the comms and activated the beacon. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, Vessel Wanderer," she transmitted. "Emergency landing on Kitha Prime. The planet is active. I repeat, something has awakened." She broadcast on every frequency, then collapsed into the pilot's chair, staring at the reformed skyline. 10 millennia of silence shattered by her touch. The twin moons climbed the darkening sky as dread coiled in her chest. Perhaps the Council had been right. Their ban was not superstition, but warning. Yet it was too late. Her ship crippled, her beacon needing days or more to be heard. Until then, she was alone, trapped with whatever had stirred. Checking her suit's charge and the plasma sidearm at her belt, she settled in to wait. She had always known exploration carried risk. She had never guessed it might endanger the galaxy itself. Outside, the alien city thrummed with power, and far below, something immense stirred from millennia of slumber. History's course had shifted, and it began with one human's desperate landing. The night stretched endless. Sarah woke to the echo of heavy steps around her hull. She jolted upright, hand on her pistol. Through the viewport, the city had continued its rebirth. Towers of black alloy pierced the sky. Rivers of light arced between them, the very air trembling with energy. The steps circled her ship, deliberate, massive, then silence, until a sound made her blood chill. A voice, deep as quakes, speaking unknown words. Sahali Kathara, Velon's Moor. The hull shivered with the resonance. Her translator beeped. Unknown language. No match. Then the voice came again, closer. Human, I know you are within. Sarah froze. Galactic standard. Whatever stood outside spoke her tongue. Silence was useless. It knew she was here. I can hear you, she called, forcing, her voice steady. Who are you? The reply rolled like thunder. I am Zathar, last warrior of the Cathani. You have broken the sleep. Why trespass the dead world? Sarah rose and crossed to the viewport. What she saw struck her breathless. The figure towered. 12 feet, built like a fortress, armored in black stone-like hide. 4 arms extended from its broad frame, 2 ending in clawed hands, the others shaped to wield weapons. But the face stopped her heart, humanoid in outline, yet massive, eyes glowing pale blue beneath ridged brows. Scars covered him, layered across flesh both ancient and raw. And though monstrous, he was broken. The warrior swayed weakly, dark, ichor dripping from deep rents across his torso. His breathing came ragged, each heave betraying a body failing from wounds time had never healed. The blue glow in Sthar's eyes flickered, faint as a dying flame. You are wounded, Sarah said, fear forgotten for the moment. 10,000 years of sleep cannot mend all injuries, Sthar rumbled. I was broken when the machine sealed me in the dark. I am still broken now. His massive head tilted, studying her through the viewport. You are so small. Are all humans this fragile? We're not the largest species in the stars, Sarah admitted, but we manage. His gaze lingered. You are the first to set foot on Kitha Prime since the decree. Your kind must be either brave or foolish. Likely both, Sarah answered. My ship was crippled. This was the only place left. Sthar made a sound, deep and rolling, almost laughter. So the forbidden world, the galaxy's terror, you stumbled upon it by accident, searching for repairs. He stepped forward, then faltered, dropping to one knee. One clawed hand pressed to his side where dark ichor bled heavily. Alarm tightened Sarah's chest. You need treatment. I need death, he whispered, but death has been reluctant. Sarah watched him sway and in that moment chose. She had emergency supplies. And though monstrous, he had not struck her. He looked weary, not hostile. I can try to help, she said, his glowing eyes fixed on her. You would aid a Cathani? Do you not know our name? I know the stories, that your people warred against the galaxy and lost. Sthar's voice was low. The stories are not false, but they are incomplete. He struggled upright. Why help me? Sarah hesitated, then answered simply, because you're hurt, and I can help. Sthar stared long, then echoed softly. Simple. No one has called the Cathani simple in an age. She cycled the airlock, emerging with a medkit in one hand and her pistol in the other. Weapon lowered but ready, she approached. Up close, Sthar was immense. His armored hide bore scars from countless battles, some carved by energies hot enough to melt stone. Yet pain weighed on him. May I look at your wounds? She asked. He lowered himself to the ground. "I have been alone so long," he murmured. I had forgotten conversation. Sarah scanned him with her diagnostic tool, frowning at the results. "These wounds are ancient but worsening. Radiation poisoning." "Plasma burns," Star said. "Weapons hotter than suns. Some injuries. Never close." She cleaned the gashes with antiseptic. He grimaced but endured. "Tell me about your last battle. What happened?" His gaze turned distant. "Madness happened. A plague consumed us, drove us to rage and slaughter. We fought all. Each other, too. When it ended, few remained. The records say your people sought conquest." "The records are written by victors," he rasped, as she applied healing gel to a deep wound. "We were not conquerors. We were desperate, searching for a cure before the plague erased our minds." Sarah froze. "A plague? The council claims the Cathani were born violent." Star's fists clenched. "The council speaks many things, not all truth. They quarantined us not for what we were, but for what we might become if healed." "What do you mean?" she asked. But before he could answer, alarms shrieked aboard the Wanderer. Red lights flared across its scarred hull. Sarah's head snapped toward the glow. "What is that?" Star rasped. Sarah sprinted back to her ship and scanned the long-range sensors. The sight froze her heart. A dozen vessels were closing in. On Catha Prime, their power signatures unmistakably Galactic Council. "We've got company," she shouted to Zathar. "Council warships probably tracking my distress beacon." The massive warrior pulled himself upright, grimacing. "They come fast. Someone must have been watching this planet." Sarah frowned. "That's bad?" His glowing blue eyes softened, almost pitying. "Human, the Council has spent 10,000 years ensuring nothing leaves Catha Prime alive. They won't care about your accident." A chill ran down her spine. "What are you saying?" "By aiding me, you may have sealed your death. The Council cannot permit anyone to uncover what truly happened here." "What truth?" she demanded. Zithar's gaze fixed on the incoming fleet, glowing specks piercing the orange sky. "That the plague which consumed my people's minds was no accident. It was forged by those who call themselves our judges." Sarah's breath caught. "The Council created it?" "Not all of them," Star admitted. "But their leaders, yes. They feared our strength, so they infected us, then destroyed what they had twisted." His voice hardened. "And now they return to finish it." The vessels loomed closer, warships, bristling with weapons. At their lead sailed a colossal dreadnought, bearing the Centurion Empire's golden eagle. "Time until they arrive?" Star asked. Sarah's instruments flickered. "Maybe an hour. Then little remains." He strode toward the reconstructed city, steadier now after her treatment. "Come, human. There's something you must witness." "Sarah," she called after him. "Sarah Chen." The warrior paused, meeting her eyes. "Sarah Chen, who aids her enemies without reward. Follow Sarah Chen. It is time you learn why this world is feared." She shouldered her gear and hurried after him. Above, the council ships swelled larger, as if the planet itself held its breath. The fate of galactic history now balanced on one human's simple kindness. Yet Sarah first had to survive what she had stumbled into. High above, Admiral Vorth of the Centurion Empire studied the scanners and smiled coldly. After 10 millennia, he would finish what his ancestors began. Star's stride quickened through the reawakened city, his massive arms swinging with rhythm as they wound between black metal spires. "Where are we going?" Sarah gasped. "To Catha Prime's heart," Star answered. "To the place where the truth was buried." The city pulsed with light, blue energy veins racing across structures, the air resonant with hidden power. Sarah marveled. The design was efficient, yet breathtaking. No space wasted. Your people built all this? Merely an outpost, Zathar replied. A research hub, not a city, but it will suffice. They reached the base of a colossal spire vanishing into the clouds. Zathar pressed his palm against a panel. The wall dissolved into an open corridor. Cathani biotechnology, he explained at her astonishment. Our structures are grown, not built. They respond because they are part of us. Inside, Sarah felt the uncanny sensation of being observed. Blue light coursed through the walls, the floor vibrating faintly beneath her boots. The building's alive, she whispered. In a sense, Star agreed. All our tools were bio-integrated. The best technology grows, adapts, evolves. That is what made us dangerous to those who preferred their subjects controlled. He led her into a lift shaft, gesturing for her to follow. The platform shot upward with staggering speed. Through transparent walls, she glimpsed the expanse. Below, glass plains, distant mountains, and the approaching fleet like dark knives against the orange horizon. They'll be here soon, she muttered. Soon enough, Star said calmly. But first, you must understand. The lift halted at the summit, opening into a vast circular chamber. Walls glowed with star charts, equations, and streams of data too quick for her eyes. At the center of the room stood, a pedestal rose at the chamber's center, holding what looked like a sphere of liquid light. The archive, Zathar said with reverence, the collected memory and knowledge of the Cathani people. Sarah approached cautiously, every step making the walls around her shift. Displays flickered to life, projecting visions that stole her breath. She saw the Cathani before the plague, majestic and proud, creators of wonders. Cities suspended in the sky, starships capable of crossing the galaxy in days instead of months. Medical marvels that could cure any illness and mend any wound. You were extraordinary, Sarah whispered. We were, Star replied bitterly. Perhaps too extraordinary for our own survival, or for others to allow. The archive shifted again. Sarah now watched Cathani scientists working feverishly, panic carved into their faces. Soldiers turned on their comrades, eyes glazed with madness. Whole cities burned as chaos spread. It began small, Star explained. A handful grew violent without reason, then more. Within a year, half our people were lost to it. Within 2, we were at war with ourselves and with everyone else. But you said it wasn't natural. Star touched the sphere and new images appeared. Sleek warships bearing the insignias of Galactic Council races filled the skies. They released swarms of glittering particles into Cathani worlds. We learned the truth too late, Star said grimly. The plague was no accident. It was a weapon crafted to shatter our minds, our passion, our devotion, turned into rage and madness. Sarah's hands tightened into fists. Who? Which races did this? The Centurions led the conspiracy, Star answered. But others aided them. They called it a preemptive strike. Yet we had never shown hostility. Why? Sarah demanded. Zathar gestured, and the archive revealed Cathani science. Ships outracing light without hyperspace, weapons able to unravel, matter itself, medical devices that could even restore the dead. Because we grew too strong, Zathar said simply. The Council maintains order by enforcing balance. No race may grow too advanced, too influential, too free. We broke that rule, so they destroyed us, then branded us monsters for resisting. Sarah's stomach turned. All her life she had believed the Council a force of peace. To see them exposed as genocidal tyrants shook her to her core. Why show me this? She asked softly. What can I do about crimes committed 10 millennia? Ego? Star turned from the archive, eyes fixed on the void where a fleet approached. Because, Sarah Chen, you will be the first to leave this world carrying the truth. and because something else lies buried here still, something the Council fears. He led her deeper until new displays revealed a colossal structure beneath Catha Prime's crust. It was breathtaking, half living, half machine, pulsing with inner light. "The Forge of Stars," Star whispered. "The Cathani's greatest creation." "What does it do?" Sarah breathed. "Everything," he said. "It shapes matter. From energy, heals every wound, builds vessels that cross galaxies as easily as you cross a room. With the Forge, a single world could remake the galaxy." And then Sarah understood. This was why Catha Prime had been condemned not to keep you from escaping, but to prevent anyone else from entering. The Council has waited for the Forge to awaken once more. Our biotech demands living operators. It cannot be commanded by machines or corpses. They have waited, certain that one day someone would arrive to stir the systems again. Someone like me. Your presence reactivated the dormant network and roused me from stasis. Now the Forge stirs for the first time in 10 millennia, and now the Council fleet comes to seize it. Sarah glanced at the descending ships with sudden clarity. "They are not here to rescue me, nor punish me for trespass. They are here for the Forge. Admiral Vore commands them," Zathar said, scanning the readouts. "He descends from the architect of our extermination. For his line, this is the fulfillment of a centuries-old mission. What will you do?" Zathar stood silent, his 4 fists clenched. "I am the last Cathani, Sarah Chen. With the Forge, I could annihilate that fleet, make them suffer as they made us suffer. The weapons exist to burn their ships from the heavens and scatter their ashes across the galaxy. Yet doing so would make me the monster they always claimed I was. It would justify their terror, vindicate their purge." His glowing blue eyes fixed on her. "You aided me without asking what I was or what blood I had spilled. You did so because I was wounded, not because of gain. Perhaps another path exists." Suddenly the displays pulsed crimson as alarms howled through the tower. On the fleet projection, Sarah saw ships breaking into combat formation. "They are preparing to strike," she said. Star pressed living panels that reshaped under his touch. "The planetary defense web is activating. Keith Prime will not be as helpless as they imagine. You mean to fight them? I mean to give you a choice." Star's voice grew solemn. "The Forge requires both Cathani biology and an outsider's guidance to function. My people designed it so to prevent corruption. I can command it, but I require another to direct its purpose." Sarah felt the weight of ages pressing down. "What exactly are you asking? Help me preserve both our peoples. The Forge can purge the plague used to kill the Cathani, not only here but across the stars. Dozens of worlds still languish beneath twisted strains of that bioweapon. We could heal them all. And the fleet?" Star smiled, and for once it was peaceful, not predatory. "We give them what they never imagined, the last Cathani's forgiveness, and the chance to rise above their inheritance." Sarah studied the alien warrior who had become her ally, then looked back at the sky. The choice should have been agonizing, yet it was not. The Council had lied for 10,000 years. Now, truth must emerge. What must we do? Star placed all 4 hands upon the sphere of light. "We must descend to the Forge itself, and we must be ready. Admiral Vore may prefer Catha Prime reduced to ruin rather than let truth spread." The tower quaked as the first enemy vessels entered atmosphere. Missiles streaked down while beams cut the skies. But defenses that had slumbered 10 millennia now roared awake, built by a people who mastered war itself. Sarah followed Thar to a living transport that would bear them deeper. Behind them, the battle for Catha Prime raged. Ahead lay power to reshape the stars. The fate of history would be written here. by a human who chose trust and a Cathani who chose hope over vengeance. The craft plunged downward like a falling star. Sarah braced herself as the vessel twisted through tunnels that bent space itself. Zithar's hands swept over living controls that pulsed with energy. Above, the surface war thundered. Even underground, Sarah felt the shockwaves of colossal detonations as the defense webs strained against the fleet. "How long can they endure?" she asked. "Long enough," Zithar answered, though doubt crept into his tone. The systems were meant to repel invasion, not wage endless siege with fading reserves. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a cavern vast beyond comprehension. Sarah gasped. The forge of stars shone like a mechanical dawn, its living alloys rippling, with impossible colors. Both beautiful and terrifying, alien yet strangely familiar, the essence of all great engineering. "Incredible," Sarah whispered. "The labor of 1,000 generations," Sthar replied softly. "My people learned to shape the primal forces of creation itself." Their craft docked on a living platform that stretched from the forge. As Sthar stepped forth, the entire structure awakened. Walls flowed like liquid, reshaping. Currents of energy surged along pathways, growing before their eyes. "The forge recognizes you," she breathed. "It recognizes the last son of its creators," Zethar corrected. "But recognition alone is insufficient. The safety locks demand 2 minds to awaken the core. 1 Cathani to merge biologically, 1 outsider to balance with perspective and guard against abuse." They advanced deeper into the forge, passing chambers glowing with swirling energy and corridors veined with living crystal. The entire place pulsed like a heartbeat. "Your people built this as a restraint?" Sarah asked. "We learned from failure. In our past, we birthed weapons too destructive, tools too dangerous. The forge was built to demand cooperation, ensuring no single being could reshape the galaxy by will alone." They reached the heart, a vast sphere of transparent walls exposing immense machines stretching into infinity. At its center waited 2 raised platforms, one clearly fitted for a Cathani, the other adaptable to many forms. As they neared, the chamber lit with displays. Sarah saw the battle above in stark clarity. The Council fleet bled ships, yet Admiral Vorth pressed forward with grim resolve. Defense platforms fell one after another. "He's relentless," Sarah muttered. "Vorth knows the stakes," Zethar replied. "If word of the Cathani genocide spreads, it will shatter the power that shields his dynasty." Her eyes locked on the flagship, a colossal dreadnought bristling with enough firepower to erase continents. Energy spooled along its hull, feeding into a weapon meant to crack worlds. "He'll annihilate the planet," she whispered. "Better Cathar Prime dead than the forge exposed," Sethar grimly agreed. "We have 1 hour." Sarah stepped onto the second platform, the biometal reshaping to fit her human frame. "Then let's begin. Tell me what to do." Zethar placed all 4 hands onto shifting interfaces, molding perfectly to him. "Press your palms against the panels. The forge will link us. The surge will be overwhelming." Sarah obeyed, palms sinking into smooth metal. Instantly, her mind detonated with sensation. She was still herself, yet tethered to something vast and ancient. Zethar's mind brushed hers, and through him, the forge breathed awake. Energy coursed through conduits the size of towers, processors greater than civilizations calculated endless. Paths. But most consuming of all was awareness, the forge's boundless potential for creation and annihilation pressing against her soul, dotted coursed through her like a river of pure possibility. With a thought, she could unravel matter at its smallest scale. With another, she could flood every living being with healing light. "Focus, Sarah Chen," Star's voice resonated inside her. "The forge's power seduces. Do not let it master you." She steadied herself, fixing on their mission. Through the Forge's senses, she touched the plague that had haunted the Cathani, a subtle, vicious bioweapon that twisted passion into fury and resolve into ruin. And she felt its echoes elsewhere, still active across quarantined worlds. "See it," she whispered. "It's viral, tuned to neural chemistry. Can you trace the source?" Zathar asked. Her mind dove through the Forge's endless archives. The galaxy unfolded like a living map, each outbreak a thread converging at one origin. Laboratories on Centauri Prime, the beating heart of Admiral Vor's empire. "They've done this before," she breathed, horrified. "Not just to the Cathani. Dozens of species, targeted whenever they grew too strong. The Council rules through chaos," Star said grimly. "They manufacture crises, then profit by selling cures." Above, the fight raged on. More defenses fell, and Vor's planet cracker neared readiness. "We're out of time," Sarah said. "Then we must decide. Do we unleash the Forge to annihilate the fleet, or attempt something greater? Destroying Vor would bury the truth forever, branding Cathani technology a terror beyond forgiveness. But Zathar's second option. "What's the riskier path?" she asked. "We broadcast the cure galaxy-wide. Heal every plague victim, expose the records. Every world will know what was done." Sarah grasped the enormity. It could not be hidden. The galaxy would learn in one instant. That would ignite war. "A war for truth," Star replied, "not lies." On the displays, Vor's weapon began targeting their chamber. "There's another way," Sarah said suddenly. Thar's mind sharpened. "What?" "We don't just cure the plagues. We give every species the ability to resist any bioweapon. Make such tactics impossible forever." Star hesitated. "That would rewrite billions of genomes. It would be the greatest act of bioengineering in history. One mistake." She felt the Admiral's finger hover over the firing command, and at the same time the scattered hope of humanity burning like stars across colonies. "I trust you," she told him, "and I think you trust me. Let's do what's never been done." His presence brushed hers, warm, resolute. "Then let us change the galaxy, Sarah Chen." Together they reached outward. Sarah's mind expanded, touching lives across the spiral arms, pain, fear, longing, hope. And then, in a moment that stretched into eternity, she and Zathar rewrote destiny. The plagues dissolved into nothing. Worlds long broken awoke whole again. Every being now carried the inborn power to detect and resist biological corruption. An age had ended. At the same time, the archives unleashed truth into every channel. Records, testimonies, data, proof of the Council's crimes cascaded across the stars. Entire civilizations knew. Vor's planet cracker fired, yet not at Kitha. Prime. His crew, faced with his exposed treachery, turned it on him. The dreadnought vanished in a single searing flash dot. The Forge released them. Sarah and Zathar collapsed, drained but alive. "Is it done?" she whispered. "It is," Star said weakly. "The galaxy will never be the same." The Council fleet tore itself apart, some fleeing, others turning their guns inward. From across the stars rose a chorus: rage, freedom, hope. The forbidden world had spoken at last. A human who chose compassion and a Cathani who chose healing had altered the course of history. Yet survival still lay ahead. 3 months after the day remembered as the Great Awakening, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Galactic Assembly Hall. Ships from 100 worlds converged in peace, their hulls still scarred from battle. Beside her, Zathar no longer wore the armor of war. In simple robes, the last Cathani stood as an ambassador. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked. "I was alone for 10 millennia," he replied. "Now I will speak for my people. One final time." The galaxy had convulsed. Since the revelations, the Council collapsed in days. Empires fractured. Wars of liberation burned on the rim. Yet from the chaos, something new emerged. An alliance built on truth and cooperation. "The human delegation has arrived," announced the station AI through the glass. Sarah spotted familiar ships. At their head flew the Pioneer, once her home. She smiled, imagining Captain Martinez grumbling at regulations while secretly thriving in the storm. "Your people adapt quickly," Star observed. "Adaptation's what we do best," she answered. It was true. Human colonies had become hubs of innovation. Freed from suppression, other species rediscovered hidden strengths. The Altarians revealed unmatched engineering genius. The crystalline vegans birthed instantaneous communication. And humanity, restless and flexible, became the natural bridge between them. "Ambassador Chen, Ambassador Zathar," called a voice. Director Yala of the Andromedans stood behind them, weary but resolute. "The session is ready." Sarah and Zathar exchanged a look, then followed her into the humming corridors of a galaxy reborn. Beings from across the galaxy moved with intent, many of them from species once confined or silenced under the old regime. The very air hummed with potential. They entered the Great Assembly Chamber, a vast spherical hall where representatives from nearly 200 worlds waited upon floating platforms arranged without rank or hierarchy. This was not the old council, where power determined seating, and lesser voices were pushed aside. Here, every world that chose to attend was granted an equal voice. Sarah took her place at the human delegation's platform, while Zdar stepped into the chamber's center. As the last living Cathani, he had been granted the honor of opening the first gathering of the new Galactic Assembly. Silence spread as his voice, magnified by the station's systems, reached every corner of the chamber. 10,000 years ago, Zdar began, "my people were destroyed by those who feared what we might become. Today, I stand before you not in anger, but offering what my ancestors never received. The chance to shape a galaxy where no species must fear the success of another." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. On her platform, Sarah felt a deep pride. The warrior who once had been ready to die alone had become a voice for unity. "The Forge of Stars, created by my people, was meant to guard against the abuse of power," Zdar continued. "It demanded cooperation between different minds to function. That principle must guide us now. No species, no matter its strength, should hold the fate of others." "Fine words," a sharp voice cut in. Sarah turned toward Commander Thrick, a Centauran officer from Admiral Vor's shattered fleet. "But what assurance do we have that you will not wield your forge to control us?" Zathar faced him calmly. "The same assurance that has always existed, Commander. The forge requires two minds to operate. One Cathani and one other. I am the last of my kind. When I die, the forge dies with me. Unless it is shared. And you would share such power?" Thrick pressed. "I already have," Star answered simply, gesturing towards Sarah. "Ambassador Chen and I altered the genetic code of every living being in this galaxy. If I had sought dominion, I could have taken it 3 months ago." Sarah rose and activated her platform's comm system. "The human delegation proposes that the Forge of Stars be placed under the collective guardianship of this assembly. Its use should require the approval of a majority of member worlds." The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates whispered urgently, weighing the offer. "You would surrender such an advantage?" asked Ambassador Keller of the Vegan Collective, her crystalline body glinting in the chamber light. "It was never meant as an advantage," Sarah replied. "The forge was crafted as a tool for all life, not a weapon for one species. It belongs to the galaxy." "The human speaks wisdom," said a deep new voice. All eyes turned as a titan from the ancient habitat worlds materialized in the chamber's center. "We have watched the young races. Some seek domination, others isolation. But these humans strive to lift all. That is," different. Warmth flushed Sarah's chest, tempered by the weight of expectation. Humanity was being placed as mediator in this new order, a role not all her kind would embrace. The human colonies will serve as neutral grounds for cooperation, she said, but we cannot carry this burden alone. Every world has knowledge. The galaxy needs. And what of enforcement? Pressed Commander Thrick. How will you prevent a return to conquest and oppression? Zdar answered steadily. The genetic gift written into every being is more than immunity to bioweapons. It fosters empathy and connection. It will be far harder for any species to dehumanize another when they can feel each other's pain. Sarah had already discovered this in the weeks since the awakening, subtle but real, a heightened awareness of others' emotions, a deeper capacity for understanding. The galaxy itself was becoming more connected. Director Yala stepped forward, a hologram rising beside her. Then let us write a new charter. First, no species shall be denied its potential. Second, no world shall be quarantined without consent. Third, all decisions affecting many shall be made by consensus, not by force. Hours of fierce debate followed, arguments, revisions, compromises. Yet Sarah watched as consensus slowly took shape. Those gathered had all suffered under the old order. None wished to repeat it. Later, standing once more on the observation deck, Sarah looked out with Zdar. Beyond the glass, ships of the new alliance held formation, but some had already begun working together. Human explorers shared navigation data with Altarians, vegan collectives aligned movements with Andromedans. Do you think this will hold? She asked quietly. It must, Zdar replied. The alternative is a return to fear and tyranny, and I believe your people will not allow that. Sarah thought of the scattered human colonies. They were young, impulsive, but resilient, and still clung to the belief that tomorrow could be better. Humanity didn't ask to be mediators, she said. No, Zdar agreed, but you stepped forward when it was needed. That makes you dangerous to those who crave control and precious to those who seek change. A comm alert chimed. Sarah opened her display. Captain Martinez's voice came through from the Pioneer. Sarah, reports just came in. New contact. In the Vega system. They've been isolated for centuries, but they're asking for human envoys. Think you and your tall friend are up for another first contact mission? Sarah glanced at Zdar. His scarred features hinted at amusement. It seems the galaxy still needs pioneers. Are you ready to travel again? I spent 10,000 years bound to one world, Zdar said. It is time I saw the rest. Sarah replied into her comm. Martinez, tell the Vegas we'll arrive in a week. Ready the Pioneer for long range. We may be gone some time. As they left the deck, Sarah reflected on her journey. Once, she had been a lone explorer charting empty skies. Now she was an ambassador shaping galactic destiny. Yet in truth, her task remained unchanged, bridging divides, bringing worlds together. The only difference was scale. Behind them, the assembly began its work, laying a foundation that could endure for millennia. Ahead lay the Vega system, where another species prepared to step into freedom. The human who had once walked a forbidden world had altered history. But the story was not finished. For humanity and the galaxy, it was only beginning. Historians would later call the awakening the moment the galaxy truly came alive. But for Sarah Chen and Zdar, it was simply the a single act of compassion between strangers unlocked endless possibility.